listen to the fans when it comes down to it, and that's why a lot of that you've got the fandom menace out there, and they're in existence because of big corporate companies not giving the fans what they really want, and just try to force their agendas into it. And this is why they're existing, and this is why Star Wars is getting such a big backlash at the moment. I mean, I explained to you off camera what SJWs are. Yeah. So so SJWs, it stands for Social Justice Warrior, right? So you've got Kathleen Kennedy, who's the leader of the head of Lucasfilm, the leader, and the fascist leader of Lucasfilm. But yeah, so so she had a social justice agenda going on, where she's going around, parading in t-shirts saying that the Force is female. When we watched The Force Awakens, I mean, I thought it was refreshing with the main protagonist being female. And if you watch my review of that, you'll see, that I was really quite happy about it, that girls would be getting into Star Wars. And with that film, I could imagine eventually lots of girls would have got into Star Wars if they carried on with the same tone in The Last Jedi, and if they gave the fans what they wanted. But they gave the fans such a big slap in the face with The Last Jedi. Therefore, pure fans of Star Wars, they're not going to be passing Star Wars on over to their children, to their daughters. They'll be like, no, you know what I mean? You watch the OT instead of this Star Wars. This isn't Star Wars. Yeah? And come on, it's middle-aged men that are buying Star Wars merchandise. It's not little kids. Yeah? And I know for a fact that myself, I would turn around and say to my kids, no, we're not buying any Star Wars merchandise because Disney are messing it up. Yeah, we're not going to fuel their agenda with our hard-earned money, and that's where the backlash is coming with Star Wars. A lot of fans do feel hard done by when it comes down to The Last Jedi, and that had repercussions on Solo because there was a boycott set up by the fandom menace. I mean, a lot of Star Wars fans that enjoyed Solo, they'll say no, it was just bad promoting. Come on, and I know that a Star Wars film does not need promotion.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I don't know if you wanted to expand into any more comments about any other aspects of the recent Star Wars before I say what I'm going to say, but before I begin my rant. See, my opinion on any agendas when it comes to these movies isn't really related to politics as such or anything you need to worry about as far as anyone's opinions on those issues are concerned. I think the only strict agenda that the entertainment industry have with anybody out there is one where they very cynically use your nostalgia as a commodity to sell your childhood memories back to you as a way of making a ton of money. And I think nostalgia has been exploited so much in the media industry and through advertisement that there's become like this feedback loop with the way content gets created, and I think it stifles creativity because I think the reason that you fell in love with these movies that you loved when you were younger, like Star Wars and things like that, was the simple case that somebody had the freedom to create something that was entirely of their own imagination and have as you're going to have some control by producers and everybody else who gives you the money to make something, that they are going to have a slight amount of influence. But the industry was very different back then. I think the way that people made movies, they had the creative freedom to make the movie that they wanted to make. And the big difference for me in the whole aspect of that process is the fact that there wasn't this feedback from an audience base with the creators themselves. Because in my opinion, and this might be a controversial opinion to say with a lot of people who love these things, but it's not about you. It shouldn't be about you, because if I'm going to create a universe that I've got in my head and I've sat there and I've written it for years of my life, and then I get the opportunity to suddenly have a crew around and to bring that to life, then that's the vision of the director and the people involved to make that a reality. It's not a panel process between feedback of fans and people with money creating a movie that they think you want. I think it's a very damaging way to create anything, and I think especially with the Star Wars universe and with the Marvel movies, there is a big element of fans telling the people through social media, through the internet, allowing them to have feedback with the creators on a level that was never available before.
Oh, definitely.
The people at the top with all the cash are sitting there and they don't know what to do with themselves. They're like, oh, well, we're going to make it like this. We've got this script, and okay, well, it sounds like people don't really want that, so maybe we're going to make some changes. And changes are being made like right up to the point before the movie's even finished. Yeah. Like that this feedback is going on, and I think it creates quite a shallow end product. And
yeah, I think
it's an issue for me. That's why I dislike these recent movies to a degree, is because I feel like I'm just very lazily watching somebody sit there and like write a script that repeats lines of dialogue from the movies I remember in a very subconscious sort of almost like subliminal advertising kind of way of like, let's have a very similar scene where characters do something that was similar to that scene you remember from Empire Strikes Back, or let's have this iconic bit of dialogue in here and let's just drop it in there and there and there. And it's like they're trying to plant these seeds of the memories of the thing that you loved into this new thing, instead of just letting the creator have free reign to be like, you know what, you don't need to put all those references in. You don't need to put all these nods to all this stuff that they used to love. Why don't you just make something new from the outset and give people what they never expected? Well, they'll fall in love with it.
Well, they had that option, that opportunity with Rogue One, and for me, Rogue One was a bit boring, to be fair. You know, there was I do think it could have been a lot more interesting as a film. The characters just seemed unengaging. You know, where in comparison to The Force Awakens, I would thought they were playing it safe with The Force Awakens by following loads of beats from A New Hope, and I think that worked for it, to be fair. I think a lot of people complained about it, but I thought that was a case of snobbery that was going on with the film, where I went into The Force Awakens thinking, you know what, I'm going to take my critic head off, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to enjoy this, and I'm going to try to feel like a little kid again. And that's what everybody wanted from that Star Wars film when they went in. Because I think a lot of people, when it came down to the prequels, they didn't get that from those. And I think the thing was, we were going in, we're going to go back to the OT characters, and we're going to feel Star Wars again. And we didn't really feel Star Wars with the prequels. The only time I really felt Star Wars with those prequels was the opening scenes of Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, when they're flying around and they got, you got Obi-Wan. And those characters set up then, they're fleshed out a lot more then. And I thought that should have really been going on a lot more in episode 2. You should have had a lot more of that in episode 2.
To me, there should be like a consistency of... I think there should be a consistency of tone between what came before and what you get. And that's the only bridging sort of gap I feel needs to be there. I don't feel so much that you need to really strictly be worried about trying to refer to sort of like I was mentioning before, like lazily copying like the structure of set pieces and scenes and locations and stuff from what came before, and with characters as much. But I think I think what I liked about Force Awakens, that was its strength, was the sense of fun to the previous movies was there, and that tone and that balance of like, this is a fun adventure movie was there, and that was intact, and the dynamic between you two characters was there as well, in the same sense of with the previous movies, the way the characters interacted was fun and enjoyable, and you wanted to go along for the ride with those characters, and that's what was consistent with what came before and worked. The stuff that got in the way for me is all the lazy references, like I say, to lines of dialogue and things from the other movies where it's just, I'm gonna kind of like tip the hat to this. constantly throughout the movie, and you get that with the other films as well, especially with Rogue One. And that let down everything that I disliked about that movie were just lazy references to the stuff that came before. I thought if you took all that stuff out and let him expand on it and do something different, it would have been more interesting. But I actually have issues with Gareth Edwards' ability to kind of get interesting performances out of actors anyway. Like I think he's a very strong technical director. I think he can put together a very exciting set piece, action wise, definitely. But
Gareth Edwards, what's he made before Rogue One?
Well, he did his version of Godzilla, didn't he? And what got him noticed was Monsters that he created in his bedroom. Well, he went and shot it around South America, I think, with a very low budget in a van with a very small crew, and then he actually did all the visual effects work himself in his bedroom. But he used to do visual effects for the BBC on documentaries and things like that previous to that. So like he's got his skills, you know. He knows how to sit there and composite and create visual effects. Like he's definitely got the mind of someone who can structure a scene together in an exciting way. But even watching Monsters, I thought Monsters is a very enjoyable film technically, but I mean the characters are quite dull and they're not enjoyable to watch on screen. And I think there's an element of that in even when you scale him up with a big budget. I think that's a slight weakness of him. My personal opinion. Like, I don't, people disagree, fair enough, but that's what I dislike about his movies to a degree.
Well, I mean, with Godzilla, I watched that and I think I was just completely disappointed once Bryan Cranston's character was gone. I was just like, I don't want to watch this film anymore.
That was a bad move, definitely. Yeah.
It's like just off the back of Breaking Bad, you've got Bryan Cranston in this, and everybody's like, if you're going to be like gunning for any character, it would have been his. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I actually fell asleep during that film almost for a little bit, and I haven't done that in a long time. I actually went to see that film for my birthday at the time, and I was really excited about it. And I must have been a bit too tired, but it'd been years since I almost fell asleep in the cinema, and I almost fell asleep in the cinema but I think I kind of like came to a little bit just as they were parachuting out, and there was like the iconic scene of all the guys parachuting with the red smoke coming down, and everyone was telling me, "Oh, it's such an amazing scene," and I must have like caught half of it because I was kind of waking up as it was happening. So that's my issue. What we were talking about before is that there's not this consistency, and especially with The Last Jedi, my issue with that in particular. I mean, obviously people might argue and say, well, everything you've just said there doesn't apply to The Last Jedi because it tries to do something completely different. But I think that's nonsense. I think it still sticks to the same rules of pandering to like all the references to everything else. And the structure of the set pieces in that really bugged the hell out of me because there are no... It just kind of throws you into something immediately. And in order for like an action set piece to work, in my opinion, you have to have some connection with the characters beforehand. And then you have to have a build-up. It's a peak and trough kind of thing, keeping anything consistent with a movie. Yeah. And that movie ignores those ideas, and it's just immediately, and now something's happening and everything's exploding, and this is exciting. And now we're on to the next thing that's going on, and you should be excited. And the next thing, and the next thing. And it's like, give people breathing space to actually care about what is happening to the people on screen. Because that film is just very bluntly just smacks you over the head with a hammer again and again, with all those scenes. And that's why I think it just loses any impact. There's obviously all the other stuff in there that you probably want to talk about your issues with it, but that was the key thing for me that really bugged the hell out of me watching that movie. It's like I did not care what happened from the minute the film opened to the minute it ended with anyone on screen because of how it was put together.
With that film, it just seemed slow. The characters seem to have gotten a little bit retarded since the character development in The Force Awakens. So you had Poe not listening to his superiors and rebelling, and he was made to look like a stupid man. I don't know whether you noticed in The Last Jedi, you can watch cuts in the film where you're seeing people in the background in the crew, and there's a conversation going on with some kind of drama going on, and you'll see people and they're on each helm, and they'll cut to it, and it's a woman. That you cut to every time, like other crew members, like people in the background. and it's not even a balance. You'll cut from one woman to another woman to another woman, and it's like, okay, the whole Rebel Alliance here now, they're all women. There's no men. All the men must have got killed, you know.
But if you were, I mean, maybe. But okay, so if you were watching any other sci-fi movie like from the past like 100 years or something, and you were just watching the background scenes with extras and stuff like that, would you bat an eyelid if there were just loads of male characters?
But no,
like you wouldn't, would you? You wouldn't even acknowledge it because it's like because you've been seeing it all your life. So what is the issue with like changing that? Like, I know, okay, so you might say that, well, the balance is unfair because you should have like a mixture of both. But I mean, you didn't have a mixture of both in the past. You just had loads of men on screen 24/7. So what's
I don't know.
Deal?
It could have been explained. Okay, you're gonna probably call me a bit of a chauvinist now. It could have been explained, right? It could have been explained like this. You know, it could have been like, okay, since the Empire, I don't know what they've called it now. It's a New Order, is it, right? Since the New Order's been about, you know, we sent out a lot of our fleets, a lot of our men, you know, and they get shot up, and they, you know, we lost a lot of lives. You know, we lost a lot of crew, a lot of, and now, you know, their wives are coming out, and they're you know what I mean? Why would these
women not be able to just do the job in the first place?
No, the women weren't doing the jobs in the first place, were they? You know, back in the Second World War, come on, you know, the women didn't go out to war, did they? No. The women stayed at home and they sewed up the parachutes.
I'm not going to start stating about things that I've not done my proper research on, but I am aware. I think I hear there were quite a lot of Russian female fighter pilots and things like that.
That's in Russia. That's in Russia. That's not in the West.
Yeah, but you know, you can't deny that like women didn't help out a huge amount in the war effort.
Star Wars is not set in a fantasy environment that was created with Russian pop culture. It was created in Western pop culture. Yep.
Right.
That's where it lives
but
and
it's
breathes.
but it's not set in those times either, is it? It's set in like set in its own entire like universe. Itself. What's the problem?
The problem is the problem is a lot of the audience aren't comfortable with that. They want Star Wars to be Star Wars. Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at Star Wars back in the day, it was still quite diverse, you know? You did have you had a strong female character. You had Princess Leia. She wasn't just a token female character. She was accomplished. She was an elite, you know? And she had a lot of power about her. And I thought that was enough, really. And you had the two main the other two characters, which were men, right? Fine. In this one, you want to switch it up and you want to make the main protagonist female, but that doesn't mean you make all the men around her stupid. And
well, okay, that's a given. The thing with the extras thing, I completely disagree on. Still, like, I don't think that like people in the background of a scene. I mean, like, come on, it's like people can do, like, anyone of any gender can do like most roles out there. Like, the fact that there's like an issue showing that in some fictional universe, the fact that there's female pilots and there's female like engineers running around in the back of a spaceship. I mean, what's the? You should be more. I think people should be more angry that they're dishing out like tedious movies that repeat themselves for you, and be more irritated about the fact that you're being given a bad film experience than anything to do with the gender of the people on screen.
But it's not going to help when after the backlash, Lucasfilm are going on about saying it's white middle-aged males that are crying about it in their man caves. You know, this is pretty much along the lines of what Lucasfilm came out and said. This was their response to the backlash of The Last Jedi. Okay. So, you know, and then there's people going around, you know, posting pictures, so-called SJWs, posting pictures on Twitter, drinking out of cups, which they've got written on them fanboy tears. You know, that's not the way to respond to your clients. Basically, they're your customers. You don't go and insult your customer base, do you? And then wonder why your toys aren't selling on the shelves.
But my opinion, I said before, like, you don't, like, from my point of view, you don't talk to your customer base. Like, you don't have the communication there from the outset. It's a stupid way of doing things. It's a stupid way of creating movies, in my opinion. Like, it's not a productive way of creating movies.
Yeah, Michael Keaton was cast for Batman in the 80s. Everybody, they couldn't believe it. They were like, he can't be Batman. Beetlejuice can't be Batman. There was a big backlash. Imagine if we had social media back then.
Mm-hmm. It probably wouldn't have happened. They probably would have recast the actor in the last minute.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you want until you see it. Like, you've got no idea what you're next going to fall in love with when it comes to, like, a piece of cinema or a TV show or something, until it's presented in front of you, and then you witness it and experience it, and you make your judgment then. But, like, if you've got expectations coming in that have been predetermined by all this feedback back and forth, because it's no longer like a movie, it's, like you say, it's an IP, it's a franchise, it's a universe, it's like they're all part of this bigger thing, then it becomes a commodity. And, like, it shouldn't be a commodity. It should be okay, I'm going to sound very pretentious saying the word art, but it should be a piece of art. Even because I very strongly believe, like, that genre movies are as equal valid forms of art as any sophisticated, like, aspects of cinema, like art films and classic movies. You know, should be taken and held in exactly the same respect. Like, they are pieces of work created by very talented individuals, and they should be taken as seriously. But, like, that, I don't think if you allow it to be treated as a product that comes off the shelf and you get delivered what you want, that you're going to create interesting things in the future. I just think you're going to keep on repeating yourself, and people are going to get bored to death of having the same old stuff thrown at them.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you release something like The Last Jedi, where the director, I mean, I don't know whether you know this, Rian Johnson was writing The Last Jedi before The Force Awakens was even written.
No, I wasn't aware of that. No.
He was writing the sequel to a film that wasn't even completed in the conceptual idea yet, you know? Mm-hmm. And then what it seems like that's happened with that is The Force Awakens come out. It was a major success, really. The biggest selling Blu-rays of all time. You know, and then Rian Johnson has, like, seen this, and he's like, going, now whatever I'm doing is better. You know what I mean? He didn't think, well, these characters have done this, and this. They've got to this point. No, I'm gonna hit a reset switch, and then I'm gonna introduce this new character, Rose Tico, just so we can get some Eastern Chinese money, you know, because that was their agenda with that, to have that Rose Tico character. Try to get, you know, you've got Donnie Yen in Rogue One. Yeah,
I mean, I think that's an aspect that okay, so it's not, I don't think it's a specific agenda from anybody who's, like, writing or creating these stories or casting these movies. I think there's definitely a huge acknowledgement out there by Hollywood that their biggest selling audience is the audience in China, like that, and to people in the Western world, when they have to accept that, it doesn't seem realistic to them, because they think, like, no, surely like, it's the biggest marketplace over here. But it's not the case. Like, that movies are specifically made to appeal to both markets now, but more so for the Chinese market, because that's more people are going to the cinema there to watch these movies. So you have to. It's not to not acknowledge that. It's crazy. Like.
Yeah, but then you need to understand. How come people are going to the cinema more over there? You know why? Because they don't. It's not as expensive to go to the cinema over there, you know, and that's where, you know, cinema is killing itself over here, because it's extortionate to go and get a cinema ticket. It's extortionate to go and buy food at the cinema. So, you know, really, if they want Western cinema to be a success again, just stop being so greedy. Rose Tico's character, so I think that character was injected there for that. I think you agree with me. You know, that character was there. It didn't serve any purpose as well for the storyline.
I think it was a weakly written character. I totally agree on that.
Total weakly written character, and another female put in there for the sake of having a female there. You know, so and I know what they're going to do. They're trying to create some kind of unrequited love triangle going on there, and you know, that's why you had the kiss with Finn's character. Do you remember that bit?
Yeah, I've watched it. I watched the movie once.
Did you watch it?
So,
okay, yeah,
I've
yeah. I've tried to watch it again.
I was glazed over at that stage in the cinema. Whenever I got to that stage, like I'd had enough of that film already. So,
but that was like the worst kiss ever in cinematic history, I think. And I was listening to, what was I listening to the other day? Seal, Kiss from a Rose. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, you know what, I need to do a spoof version of the Seal song and take bits of The Last Jedi and drop it in there. But anyway, what I want to know is, I want to know what you thought of The Last Jedi, and you said there was something that you wanted to say.
Well, it's probably just what I've already really said about it, to be honest with you. Like, they're just my main issues with it, like any of them, are just lazy repetition of themes and ideas, and then just the fact that the way the film was constructed, like I say, it doesn't allow you to care about anything that's happening to the characters. It just throws you straight in there without a sense of, like, there's no like tension and build up to the tension and then release with the way a scene's put together. It's just like a thrown together sort of smorgasbord of, like, boom, 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 this is going on, this is going on, this is going on. And it's not like I dislike him as a director by any means at all. I think visually he's a very adept, talented individual when it comes to, like, depicting stuff on screen. He's definitely got a certain sense of style to the way he creates movies. But
did you watch Looper? Did you watch Looper?
Looper, yeah, I watched Looper. Yeah. Enjoyed it for the most part. I thought it was really, really good. I have issues with the third act of Looper, where it feels like there's suddenly, like, a movie that I still would have enjoyed watching, but it's a very different movie. It's more like a Stephen King sort of, like, horror set in a field somewhere. You know, it's like there's this supernatural aspect-y thing going on there that intrudes on the rest of the movie, and I think it's quite jarring towards the end. And I would have happily watched the first, like, 3/4 of that movie as one movie, and then I would have happily watched this other film that happens towards the end that just comes out of nowhere as a separate movie. But I thought, thrown together, they get in the way of each other a little. Get in the way of each other a little bit.
Well, to me, I thought it was kind of like a cross between a time traveling film like 12 Monkeys. I saw a lot of similarities with 12 Monkeys in there, not just having Bruce Willis in there, but I thought, you know, the loop thing, that was very much inspired from 12 Monkeys. And there was also elements of Akira that I felt that were there in Looper.
Yeah, definitely.
But I thought, I was so excited that he was going to be doing the next Star Wars film after The Force Awakens. Oh, this is going to be awesome. Do you know what I mean? This is going to be something that we've never... And it really was something that we've never seen before. It really was something, you know, and he went out of his way to subvert our expectations. But doing that in a film just for the sake of doing it, that's really, you're being a troll at the end of the day with your audience. That's what you're doing there. Because, you think this is going to happen? Well, guess what? It's not going to happen. Oh, you think, that's going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. It kind of seems like, you know, where everything was going beat for beat with Force Awakens? They totally flipped that on its head with The Last Jedi.
I didn't find it that surprising a movie to watch, though. I found it as as kind of predictable as every other new Star Wars that's been churned out since. Like that, I still had all those problems with it that I had with the other ones as well. Like watching it, I wasn't. It didn't surprise me. Like I didn't think it was like, wow, this is brave and different and new. Like, wow, I was just sitting there watching it, thinking like, it's the same old stuff. Once you strip away the visual style and stuff, which was the most exciting aspect of it for me, it was like, okay, suddenly we're going to have this like certain level of visual sophistication brought into these movies that wasn't there before, where you have this really cool stylish looking Star Wars film from the trailers, especially. That's what I thought I was going to get. And then when I watched the final thing, it was like, nah, it's still really lazily written with all the other references and everything else still thrown in there. And then it has that, like I say, that major issue, which isn't anything to do for me with the casting of certain characters or the depiction of certain people on their gender or anything like that. It's more that like the film just doesn't work on a level that you've just got like a load of people doing stuff you couldn't care less about happening one scene after the next, and like I just found it a really boring experience. So that's my issue with it.
Yeah, it was definitely a boring experience. And on that note, let's move on to the next. Hi, thank you for watching the first part of this podcast series. Hit the notification button, then you know when the next video is out. And please leave your comments down below. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe. See you later.